John Harbaugh addressed the massive amount of penalties that the Ravens haven't called for through the first two games and actually had a pretty solid response to it. But I'm going to play you the clip. But before I get into that, welcome to Vlog Talk, your home for all things Baltimore Ravens football. If you're new to this channel and you are a Ravens fan, make sure you hit subscribe and turn on post notifications. Like the video. We're trying to hit 2,000 subscribers before the end of the season. So if you want to be a part of that, I would genuinely appreciate it. Thank you all for tuning in. But enough of that. John Harbaugh was asked about the 11 penalties for over 100 penalty yards in this game against the Raiders, and the 7, I believe, penalties against the Kansas City Chiefs. And this is what Coach Harbaugh had to say.
We talked about this yesterday, obviously, but 11 penalties yesterday. Probably a couple of questionable ones. I think 7 the week before. How much of emphasis in the conversation in the meetings has that been over these first 2 weeks of play?
I would say it's a massive point of emphasis. Has been a massive point of emphasis, and will always be. It's just not okay. You can talk about some calls here. Talk about a holding call. You definitely talk about a call that was called as a face mask. You can talk about one of the pass interferences. And those are game-changing plays, no doubt about it. But you can't talk about false starts. You can't talk about obvious holding. Things like that. You can't talk about not lining up correctly. Those are things that we have to take responsibility for, and we're not there yet by any stretch of the imagination in terms of playing consistent football across the board and not making mistakes that are costing us opportunities to move yards. So I would say that we cost ourselves more plays than our opponents do right now on both sides of the ball, and that's something that we have to clean up.
I completely co-sign everything Coach Harbaugh said there. I see so many fans, and I understand the frustration that get irritated and upset over questionable to bad calls, such as the face mask on Metabike, which was not a face mask. In real time, it looked like it, but the replay obviously showed that it was not. Or, like he said, the questionable pass interference call. I understand getting frustrated over that. That makes total sense. But a lot of those penalties were not questionable. Like the 2 false starts on Derrick Henry were not up for debate. The Ravens are just plaguing themselves. It's hard enough to beat the opposition. You don't need to beat yourself too. And that's what the Ravens have absolutely been guilty of through 2 games. Fact of the matter is, it is very possible the Ravens could be 2-0 if they played more disciplined football. Okay, and there's a lot of people that would be upset that I say that, but that's just a fact. There were calls in the Kansas City games or penalties in the Kansas City game that really hurt the Ravens. And there was calls in this game that really hurt the Ravens. Self-inflicted wounds have killed this team time and time and time again. And that is exactly why they lead the league in blown leads in the fourth quarter for the last 4 or 5 seasons. That is exactly why. No matter what Coach Harbaugh or anybody else wants to say, it is self-inflicted wounds, especially in the fourth quarter, that kill this team. And it's self-inflicted wounds that keep the Ravens from probably leading by a lot more in the fourth quarter, oftentimes in these games. Yesterday being a good example. If they didn't have 11 penalties in some of those sustaining Raiders drives or killing Ravens drives, would they have put more points on the board going into the fourth quarter? These are things obviously we'll never know. And I'm not saying the Raiders didn't win. The Raiders absolutely made all the plays they needed to win the game. So give them all the credit in the world. Their players played quite well down the stretch. Gardner Minshew made the throws. Davante Adams, Brock Bowers, who I don't hear anybody talking about, was a beast in that game. And Max Crosby on the defensive line is an absolute unit. So taking nothing away from those guys, my point is the Ravens absolutely have hurt themselves in the first 2 games, and it would not be unrealistic to see them be 2-0 rather than 0-2. But I think the Ravens have to self-evaluate, look in the mirror, and realize they are the reason they are 0-2. Now, are they going to get it fixed and start executing at a higher level the way they need to? Who knows? Fact of the matter is, their season is on the brink of going into the toilet if they don't get it together. Their next 3 games are not any easier. On the road at Dallas, home against Buffalo, then they got to go to Cincinnati, to a division rival. There are no weeks off. They have to get it figured out right now, or the season could take a turn for the worst. And I don't want to say that it's going to, but that's just fact. That is the reality of the Ravens today. I believe this next game is the make or break game for the Ravens. Starting 0-3, is the season over? Of course not. They could still make a run. They could still make the playoffs. But how many 0-3 teams turn out to have a great season? after that and accomplish the ultimate goal they want to of a championship. This isn't a wild card team. This team didn't enter the season going, well, we hope we just make the playoffs. This was a team that had goals of winning the division, of possibly maybe being the top seed in the AFC again. I thought that was a real possibility. I still do think it's a real possibility, but the ultimate goal of a championship was the underlying goal of the season. This team is championship aspirations, and to go start out 0-3 would put them behind the 8 ball, essentially. They really have nobody to blame but themselves, in my opinion. Self-inflicted wounds have killed this team, and the offensive line needs to step up. The secondary needs to step up. There's a lot of work that needs to happen on this team if they're going to have a chance of turning this ship around as soon as humanly possible would be ideal. But I want to know what you guys think. What did you think of John Harbaugh's comments? What do you blame for the most for their 0-2 start? Is it the offensive line? Is it the secondary? Is it bad penalties? I want to know what you guys think. Coaching, it could be a million different things. I want to know what you think, Ravens Nation. You watch the games. Give me your thoughts in the comments. Thank you for giving me a few minutes of your day, and I'll see you in the next video. Go Ravens.